Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crossroads of Cognizance, the place where we are creating a community discussion around all things spiritual, metaphysical, witchy, woo woo, energy based, all the things. Here we have Katrina and I are two professional energy workers, magical workers. We live our lives this way. It's more than just a passing trend. Uh, what's the other thing it could be called other than a trend? Fad or a hobby. And with that being the case, we have a lot of insight on what uh, others are doing in this sort of spiritual realm, and we certainly have a lot of opinions about it. So we are here to share those with you and to hear your thoughts and ideas, answer your questions, and more recently bring in the world of Reddit. So with that, a couple housekeeping rules. If you are catching this for the first time, you are going to want to click the video. If you are catching us on Facebook, that will allow you to uh, comment so in a way that we can see your comment. And then on YouTube, you just be yourself and share what you will. And other than that, I guess we have maybe some intros to do. So, I am Dahlia Rose. I am the founder of the Conduit School, and I take my time. I've been working at things roughly since about 2012, working at things in ways to support my clients, to support my family, myself through spiritual transitions and shifts and changes and evolutions, and have gotten to a place where I now teach classes and I do energy healing sessions, cleansings, and support the local community and the international community to the best of my ability through those workings. And that's who I am.
My name's Katrina Rasbold. I'm half of Crossroads Occult. My husband and I run that business, and crossroadsoccult.com. We offer all sorts of handmade spiritual items. We also do cleansings and readings and spell work for people. I've been doing this for around 40 years, and I'm also an editor for Green Egg magazine, which is one of the longest running pagan periodicals that was founded in 1968. I also, what else do I do? I don't know. Oh, I wrote some books. And if you go to katrinarasbold.com, you can see everywhere I am and everything I do. So Dahlia takes one for the team every broadcast and puts on her hazmat suit and goes into Reddit to find things for us to talk about. And it often turns out that it looks like she and I are just kind of shitting on everybody and what they say. Hi, Debs. And we don't mean to do that. But a lot of the people that put things out there, especially their inner garments that are soiled to air on the internet, have a lot for us to work with. And she and I are both healers. We have both counseled literally thousands of people. And so we see trends and we do see what does and doesn't work. We also, because we've done this enough that we can pick out the themes with clients and we can kind of see the direction they're going, and we can usually have a pretty good idea how that's going to play out. Now, that's not just our intuitive side speaking, although that screams at us too, but it's just about the nature of things and how things tend to flow when you choose certain actions. People overall, they do surprise me, I got to say, but mostly they're fairly predictable. And especially as you get to know people, when you work on them energetically and you feel their energy and you've been all up in their energetic business, you can kind of tell how it's going to play out and what's going to happen next. And so when we read these Reddit posts, we're doing it from a position of a cold read. There's a lot we don't know about what's going on. When we're bringing in a client, we are doing an extensive interview with this person to find out everything that's going on with them, everything that might be affecting what's happened with them. We don't have that with these Reddit folks, so we do just shit on them a little bit. So we also try to offer practical advice, hoping to God they never find it. So here we go. So Dahlia this week sent two for consideration. We're going to get to both of them. The first one I don't think is going to take too long. We might get wrapped up in conversation. Truth be told, y'all, we don't script any of this. We never know where this is going. And so we do our best to try to figure out. We almost always hit that 1 hour mark. Perfect, but we're going to see what happens. So what I wanted to do, Dahlia, is switch them up, the order that you sent them to me, because I think the second one you sent will take less time than the first one.
Alrighty.
And I want to make sure we got enough time to get all of that in. So some of y'all might relate to this. I don't know. I'm just going to read it as it's presented. I'm going to try not to put any inflection on it, but I will likely be unsuccessful with that. So this person says, my subconscious is dark, although I feel I'm a good person. Well, that's all right. It happens to the best of us. But then they go on, bless their hearts. My subconscious and dream state is one of the most uncomfortable places for me. Ever since I was a toddler, I've had nightmares every night about disturbing, dark, disgusting things that ultimately carry over to my waking life and make me miserable. I practice between being the best person I can be. I don't lie, cheat. I treat everyone nicely. I really feel like I'm doing a good job of pushing sin and negativity out of my life. Praise Jesus. But somehow I still feel dark in my mind. I don't feel like it's me, but I feel like it's something attached to me that I simply cannot get rid of. I'm a Christian. I pray and pray. I've anointed my space. I've done everything, but still my subconscious mind burdens me every day with disturbing scenarios happening to me or others, and I don't know what to do about it. What do I do? What don't you do? Okay. Lord have mercy. There's a lot to unpack there.
There is. And I don't write as fast as you do, so please go ahead.
You're okay. We're going to get started on this because, boy, there's just a lot. There's a lot to work on there. So let's be clear about one thing. Starting off, I'm just going to take this a sentence at a time, and then Dahlia can add interstitially or afterwards what she's feeling. Number one, your subconscious and your dream state is supposed to be one of the most uncomfortable places for you to be. Let's start with that, because that's where you're working out your crap that you don't have the courage or the time or the motivation to work out during your day-to-day life. You're not supposed to have nightmares every night. I'm not saying that that's it, but I am saying that as we come into this world, dream state and subconscious is not there's not a right or an entitlement for it to be a comfortable place to be. Even to this day, science does not know why we dream. They have no clue. They've got a lot of theories, but they don't know why we dream. But what we do know as healers is that dream time is where we work out a lot of the stuff because our higher power is closer to us at that time, and we can work from a little bit of a higher vibe. Now, the next thing is, ever since I was a toddler, I've had nightmares every night about disturbing, dark, disgusting things that ultimately carry over to my waking life and make me miserable. That's a lot for a little toddler to do. I'm just saying. If you've got a toddler that articulates that they are having disturbing, dark, disgusting things come to them in their dreams, you got a toddler that needs some medical help. Toddlers should not be in that place unless they have endured some extensive trauma. Now, to be fair, that can be birth trauma. Although this is not the path I take, I don't rule it out, and it could be past life trauma. But usually toddlers are not by nature traumatized unless there is some sort of psychological issue going on with them, or they have experienced profound trauma. When we are children, our job is to learn stuff. Our job is to be on record rather than play. Our job is to process the world around us. And so usually little kids, yes, they have nightmares of things they don't understand and things they see on TV that they relate to in a frightening way. It does happen. But to say every night that they've had these dreams that are described as disturbing and dark and disgusting as a child, that's a problem. That needed to be treated. That needed some help. I practice being the best person I can be. I don't lie, cheat. I treat everybody nicely. Well, all right. I would want to know how the people around them feel about them. Really feel like I'm doing a good job of pushing sin and negativity out of my life. Well, what does this involve? Does this mean that you've got a Solis and a cat of nine tails whipping yourself every night? Or does it mean that you're just praying the gay away? Or what does this mean? What does that look like to you that you are doing where do I go? That you're doing a good job of pushing sin and negativity away? Or and they go on to describe themselves as being a Christian. Are you in a particularly fundamentalist Christian home that is oppressive, that's causing you to believe that normal reactions are sinful in some way? So we just don't have enough information here. I feel, let's see, I don't feel like it's me, but I feel like it's something attached to me and I simply can't get rid of it. You might need a cleansing. That's the truth. I'm going to go with that. You might need a bunch of cleansings, because if you've got a lot going on in there, one cleansing gets you started, and then you need other sessions to get down deeper and unearth things that we didn't see in that first cleansing, because the mess that we did clear out was on top of it. And as we move on, I've done everything. Now that's in capital bolded letters, but still my subconscious mind burdens me every day with disturbing scenarios happening to me or others, and I don't know what to do about it anymore. What do I do? So people worry. That's a reality. Is this just worrying, or is it images of you chopping up somebody with a hatchet? That's stuff we need to know in order to proceed. We need to know the degree and nature of this. And so just putting this little bit out there into the world, saying this is what's wrong with me, what do I do to fix it? That's not how we play this game. So that's what I got to say on it, and I'll probably think of more stuff as you're talking, because you always motivate me and give me good stuff to think about. But I just feel like there's just a lot going on there, and I'm trying to get the vibe of it and to feel what's happening intuitively. And it just feels like the energy of this is just all over the place, and that maybe they're trying to ascribe some normal experiences to something metaphysical, or that they genuinely need some mental health care.
Well, my thoughts on this are ping ponging all over the place. There's so much to unpack, and because I have limited access to the reading just in this particular situation, I may be out of order. So one of the first things that came up for me was this heavy focus on doing good as a justification for being a good person. This reminds me of the dichotomy between the people that go out and maybe pray for an individual, but then at the same time, they will actively oppress that individual or torture them, or say that they're bad or that their soul is bad or whatever, and then turn around and say, but oh, we're doing this in the spirit of goodness, or we're doing this based on our principles and faith and things like that. So I hesitate to accept just at face value this concept of I do good things and therefore I am a good person. I also have a little bit of pushback on that. And I see this in my clients sometimes, where they say, I do good things. Why aren't good things happening to me as a result? And 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 there, simply because the concept of doing good things does not earn you good back. We are here to put things out in the world, and you would be, or anybody, this person or anybody else would be better served doing the good things that they want to do without expectation. I mean, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know because I wasn't alive, but in the concept of Jesus and the Bible giving and doing, it wasn't because he was going to get good things back. In fact, according to that text, he got very negative things back. So maybe she's right on par with, what it is that she's doing. Other thoughts. Defining the nightmares. So she emphasized disgusting things in her nightmares. I'm right alongside you, Katrina. If her belief system declares certain normal human things disgusting, like let's say that she's finding arousal in her dreams, or she's finding lust or coveting something, or maybe running naked through the streets, and or dancing with Satan, who knows. But I love what you said about this is the place where we work that out instead of immediately labeling it bad. It's, what does this represent, what is this connected to, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's so many opportunities for analysis rather than immediate self purging and attack. So it feels important to kind of define what the nightmare actually is. I when I was Christian and unmarried, having impure thoughts was a challenge. Nobody told me that, fantasizing about somebody I'm in love with or have a crush on or whatever was normal. And the bigger concern would be, what are you acting on based on your belief systems or whatever.
Mhm.
So definitely a need to define the nightmares, because what she's dealing with may not in fact be all that terrible, maybe fairly normal. The same thing goes with the word disgusting. I mean, a disgusting dream to me would be walking through a room that has syrup on the floor and I can't get out. I that would be like tinfoil in my teeth. And that is a real nightmare.
You
Or
came up with that real quick. That leads me to believe there's experience there.
my own personal circle of hell. Like,
Dante wants to talk to you, ma'am.
Same thing for touching countertops that look clean and are not. I can't, like, these are Dahlia's personal issues. So it feels important to define what disgusting is to this individual. Now, as much as this person is doing this self-evaluation and labeling negatively her experience, if we were to take a possible this is natural stance to what's happening, I feel like, at least from my experiences with cleansings and healing sessions, the more that she is agitating her energy field and separating herself from the core essence of who she is, and who she clearly doesn't know that she is, the more cracks in her energy field start to appear. And that allows in everything that she's trying to run from. So yes, is there something attached? Likely, because it seems like this person, between the disengaging from self, but also maybe the sleepless nights from all these nightmares, and that can lead to a weakening of the field as well. Perhaps the very things that she's afraid of are getting a foothold in her energy field, and then they're starting to whisper, you're disgusting, you're not a Christian, you're not doing things the right way, and continuing to cause, or rather adding on to her challenges and her issues. So I feel like just even based on her description, if we were to take if she was to book an appointment and we were to take a look at her field, it would have fractures and fragments all throughout, if not plain old holes. It doesn't sound like she has a lot of personal, not personal, energetic integrity to hold herself together. And then let's see, last thoughts on this for now are, it feels more disruptive to work in this, for her to work in this place of inacceptance rather than to see this as a point of growth, right? Like we can play devil's advocate here, no no pun intended, and tell her this is normal. But even if this is normal for her and she does want to grow out of this space, she needs to first know where she is. This is the way to solve and to make different any problem in existence. You want to have more stability in your life, you need to figure out what's unstable. If you want to be more emotionally intelligent, you need to figure out where the holes in that intelligence are. You want to be more financially abundant, you need to know what your finances are doing right now and why you are not abundant, so on and so forth. So if she really is trying to be maybe the best Christian that she could be, her opportunity is to figure out what is happening inside of her, not outside, because she feels very outwardly focused based on the her writing. She needs to sort out what's going on inside of her that is not allowing her to achieve her own personal standard. So, and she probably needs help with that because of this sort of outward focus that she's taking.
So one thing is, we don't have a gender on this person. This could be a dude.
I always do that.
Okay, we don't know. Could be. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm so bad at that.
Another thing I thought about is we don't have an age on this person, and that would make a huge difference. This is a completely different conversation coming from a 50-year-old than a 15-year-old.
Oh, for sure.
Because they're not that far away from being a toddler. So that hasn't been happening for that long. I like what you said about defining their goodness by what they do. And I see that in my clients too, that whole thing of I do all these good things and it just never comes back. Well, I have to explain to them that, number one, like you were pointing out, you're doing these good things with a motive. You're not doing it because that's what kind, good, compassionate people do. You're doing it with the expectation of getting something back for you. And I know that feeling. I know how it feels when you're just putting out and putting out and putting out for other people, and just taking care of everybody, and there's nobody to take care of you, nobody to do for you. I get that. And so sometimes it's just realization of, well, why have I set myself up with all these people that are needy rather than anybody who can give to me? And sometimes it's just examining your motive. Why do you feel entitled for people to do for you or good things to happen to you? That is not a guarantee in life any more than sweet dream time and a kind subconscious. When you talk about agitation, I think that's an excellent point, because you know what? Agitation is what gets our clothes clean. If there's not an agitator, I mean, granted, the new ones don't have agitators, but if your clothes are not agitating, the dirt's just going to sit there. So the agitation is what has to loosen everything and get it to the surface so that it can be cleaned. The last thing I want to say about this, I think it's the last, it might not be, depending on what you say next, but I was a Christian for many, many years, and I have mad respect for plenty of aspects of Christianity. I got no qualm with Christianity in terms of the people that use it to the optimum advantage. However, I will say, having been a Christian, Christianity is one of the nicest places I've ever been. It's also one of the most appalling places I've ever been. It all depends on how that theology is being interpreted by the people around you and how it's being programmed into you. It can take on some really ugly aspects. And so, yeah, more information needed. But boy, yeah, I could spend some time on this one.
So it's funny. I was a Catholic first, and then I was Christian. And it felt like the guilt that I felt from Catholicism felt impenetrable. Um, because it felt like every ritual, every ceremony, every sermon was like, give of yourself because you're not clean. Change this about yourself. Make sure you say this many Hail Marys or, whatever. At the same time, it felt less constricting than Christianity, because when we switched to Christianity, it was like, oh, you better not. There's no, you can go to the altar, but there's no prayers for you
Yeah.
to say. so
Good
so
luck.
right. It was a very interesting shift.
And with
Um,
you.
yeah, I before we switch gears, I like what you said about surrounding yourself with people who need you, because I feel like that's another common pitfall when you have that sense of needing to be needed, and that is followed by martyrdom.
Mhm.
So there's definite challenges there. That was the last piece I had.
It's kind of like when relationships evolve, and whether it's romantic or familial or friendship, all relationships will evolve to something different than how they started out. Often
Mhm.
it's positive, sometimes it's not. But you go from being that couple that says, "Oh, we always finish each other's sentences," to, "I wish you'd stop interrupting me all the time." So
That sounds
relationships,
familiar.
yeah, relationships change and evolve. And there's a lot of people, and I gotta say, it's often Virgos, and it's often Virgos with minimal self-worth. They know that if they
Mm.
don't go in and fix everything and make it better, it's not going to get done right. And it's just faster to go in and do it yourself than to
We're
just,
not supposed to air our dirty laundry on here.
well, I'm just saying Virgos, some Virgos. Uh, it's easier to go in and do it yourself than to have other people do it, because they're just going to screw it up, and you're going to have to go in and either fix it or tell them how to fix it, and it's going to be a pain in the ass. And also, when somebody needs you, they are showing you that you have value to them.
Mhm.
And it's a big step, let me tell you. And this is all over every astrological sign except for Aries will have this experience, which is that it's a huge step to go from, there is value assigned to me because of they like what I do for them, to there is value assigned to what I can give, not who I am.
Mm.
And that's a huge step. So, and it's an ugly step to take. And that's when you do start changing the people who are around you, because you recognize that those who you thought were assigning value to you as a person are literally just assigning value to how much money you're going to give to them, or how many meals you're going to cook for them, or how many rides you're going to give them to this place or that place. It's all about being utilitarian versus who you are or what you have to say or what's happening in your life. And you just reach a point where you're done with that.
Yep.
Yep. So our next category, our next discussion, there's a lot here because there's something like 10 or 11 points. I didn't count them. So the thing is, what is spiritual maturity? Now, the reason I keep glancing over is I got this on my iPad over here. What is spiritual maturity? And the person says, I'm not sure the origins of this list, but it's chock full of wisdom. I can check off some, but others remind me I still have work to do. Now, that's the best point of spiritual maturity right there, where you can say that you still have work to do, and you can say that you're a work in progress. You can say that I'm integrating new information as it comes to me,
Mhm.
and deciding whether that really kind of resonates as truth for me at this time or not. Now, it might seem like truth in 5 years or 6 months, but if it doesn't feel like truth to you right now, it's probably going to bounce off of you. And so just accepting the fluidity of what you do and don't know, I think, is one of the hallmarks of spiritual maturity. So I'm going to read off some of these, and We're going to see what kind of reactions come up as a result of them. Okay, it's the idea is spiritual maturity is when we stop trying to change others and focus on changing ourselves.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
I would say a good 95% of the spell work that I do for others, and God bless America, I'm doing a lot of spell work for others. I appreciate that I can remain employed through my retirement, but and 95% of the work I do for folks is focused on other people and trying to make other people feel a certain way, do a certain thing. So I've got this long ass friggin' damn speech that I've got to give at the beginning of all of it about the efficacy of spell work done to get other people to do things, and how hard that is, how much energy it's going to take, and how long it's not going to last. And that if you work on yourself, you have a willing participant, and so it's gonna be so much more effective. So I would definitely sign off on that. It comes when we stop trying to change others, accept others as they are, and try to change ourselves. What's interesting is there's a tenet in Wicca specifically where you come into the Wiccan circle, and if there's a challenge at the gate, the question is, how do you enter this circle? And there's a correct response, and you have to know the password. And the password is in perfect love and perfect trust. And I struggled with that because a lot of times you're going to public gatherings. And so I asked one of my elders, well, I'm not comfortable with that because I don't even know them people. How do I trust them perfectly? How do I love them? And she was so wise, and she said, you know what? You trust them to be exactly who they are.
Yep.
So that's what I got for that.
So for me, I've referenced a couple times on the show sort of how we first become awake and alive, and we're like, we got to tell everybody. And that initial drive to like go out and change the world, it's beautiful and unrealistic completely. And so for me, this principle of maturity is the best way to know that you need to keep going. It's a great marker for that. And the just what we were saying in the last or mentioning in the last of self-acceptance, that piece of spiritual maturity is there as well. When you can learn to accept yourself and then decide more consciously that you want to make a change, not based on what you'll achieve, attain, or somebody else's influence. And so 100% I am behind the principle of not changing, especially I taught a class within my membership where we dealt with spiritual like what did I call it? Spiritual justice. And I had my participants show up and evaluate energy. Like, first, come to the realization of what you want to happen, and now show up and evaluate the energy of the situation. Knowing those two things are side by side, evaluate karmic balance rather than what you deem as fair. And it was a mind altering experience because people really started to get into a space where they could say, I may not be happy with what balance looks like, but now I can move towards acceptance. I don't have to. They started to see where the more they tried to impose their will, the more challenging the moment would be, or maybe you extend the moment to months and years. So yes, 100% about changing things.
One thing about that that makes me think about is when I have people that'll contact me to burn a justice candle for them, they do not think that shit through, because what they have to, and I'll bring this directly up to them. Did you do it? If you're guilty, and usually it's a court case, if you're guilty of what you're being accused of, you do not want a justice candle.
No, you do not.
So think about that. And it's the same thing with manifestation, like we're talking about. This is what I want to have happen. What is balancing that? And I'm not saying it's like the other lady where you've got to do enough good things that you earn it, you get your brownie point. But it's a matter of what are you balancing what you want with?
Mm-hmm.
What's the other side of that? Just cause is not usually a good reason.
No.
So our next one is similar but different. It is when we expect or when we accept people as they are. Yeah, the other part of that is, and then make decisions about their place in our lives.
Mm.
Because if we fully accept somebody as they present to us and as we perceive them to be, then we may or may not want to have that person influencing us in any way or being around in our lives. So that's what I got to say about that.
This reminds me of conversations I've had with clients where they're like, but if this person would just, and the conversations that you and I have had where we said something along the lines of, you, I remember repeatedly saying you can't bleed a turnip. Like what somebody is capable of and what you are trying to draw
Mm-hmm.
out of them, either through guilt, shame, emotional manipulation, whatever, you are not going to get from them if they are not capable. You're either going to get inconsistency or you're going to get aggravation and aggression from them as you try
Mm-hmm.
to constantly pull something out of them that is not there. So yes,
So
accepting
true.
people for who they are saves time, headache, sometimes violence. And so 100% with that on the spiritual
And
front.
we see that all the time. Just because you can be monogamous doesn't mean your partner is cut out to be monogamous. Just
Mhm.
because you can control your anger doesn't mean that your partner can control their anger. And you continually wanting them to be different than they are is not productive.
Mhm.
You have to meet them where they are and decide if you can live with that or not. Take back your power and make choices. So, well, shit. Hang on, my thing timed out. There we go. All right, we're back. So when we understand, I struggle with this one, and I'm not completely sure I'm sold on it. I am, but the phrasing bothers me. When we understand that everyone is correct according to their own perspective. Well, you know what? Serial killers are correct according to their perspective. That doesn't mean that that's a person that should be out amongst folks. I think that if your perspective is altered by extenuating circumstances like a specific mental illness or trauma, yes, it is correct, is what bothers me.
Okay.
If it's authentic to you, I get
Yeah.
that. It
Or
may,
real to you.
right.
That would be another one.
Yes, it may not agree with what I believe to be true. And we all know that you can observe something, 5 different people, and they'll come away with 5 different experiences. But I'm sure reality is only perception, but I'm just one of these people that believes here's what I believe. I believe there is a baseline reality. I believe
Yes.
there's a baseline of what happened. I don't think any of us can ever hit that baseline as far as our
Mm.
perspective is concerned, because I think that our filters keep us from perceiving the actual baseline of anything that happens.
Okay. I see this as a basic live and let live kind of phrasing. They just sort of expanded it, or wherever they pulled it from expanded that. So that is to say, it seems like it's what comes after spiritual maturity in terms of accepting people as they are. That means that you learn that though you found growth and achievement outside of maybe religious principles or moving away from your country, or any other transitions in life that have changed you irrevocably, then what you will do is look back, and rather than engaging in pity or looking down on others or antagonizing people for holding the belief systems that they do. You just go, oh,
Mhm.
okay, this is what's
Right.
real for you. This is what helps you achieve your best self, even though I may perceive that as limited and I can see more of you and blah, blah, blah. I don't have to push that on you and you don't have to push your stuff
Mhm.
on me. So that's what I
Absolutely.
took from that.
And, we are in a place right now where a person's perspective and truth politically can harm
Mm.
others and harm people we care about and harm us. And so we have a vested interest in what other people perceive as truth or perceive as reality. So that's a weird quagmire right there.
It is, and only in recent times, right? Like
Right.
I I can attest to feeling like there are some factions and belief systems where I could say live and let live, but I could not stand next to them because I may actually receive violence or harm
Mhm, mhm.
just simply for being different or believing different. I
Yeah.
mean, and I can recall a time in our well, in the time that I've been in America and alive, in our nation's history, where it was like, okay, these are segmented to like the KKK.
Mhm.
But now you just don't know, other than maybe outward expressions, stickers on the back of a vehicle, or God only knows what else. So yeah,
Mhm.
this is a time that really presses that part of spiritual maturity, because
Yes.
just because you're mature doesn't mean you let people harm you,
Right.
to be clear.
So if their perspective is causing you harm, it's okay to understand that that is truth for them. It's not okay to be harmed by that. And that involves a certain amount of corralling on their part that they may not be able or willing to provide. So that's a weird one. I would have to spend a lot of time on that one. The next one is when we learn to let go. I gotta agree with that. But sometimes letting go looks like you don't care, and people get really weird about that. Because, I mean, for instance, this idea that's on the internet right now of if you're not angry, you're not paying attention, and
Ooh.
that's a harsh one. I understand the mind and the heart that it comes from, um, but I'm not going to let myself be angry all the time and let that be my existence. I'm not going to let that filter cover everything that I see in the world. So I've always seen that as a very low, even though it's presented as kind of a gatekeeping sort of thing, I've always seen that as a very low vibrational process. That they
Mm.
want everybody to be angry because they're angry. They want everybody to be angry because they can't understand why you're not angry. And, for me, part of the reason I'm not angry is because nothing that's happening right now is new. And if you think
Mm.
that the mindsets around are new, you have not studied world history. There is almost no instance throughout the entire existence of humans where it has been written up about how benevolent people are.
Mm.
I mean, that's just, what I've read and what I've seen. So, letting go to me means letting go of the things I absolutely cannot affect and control, and letting go of old traumas and not letting them have power of me, and honestly letting go of people who have a negative effect on me.
Mhm. So I feel like as like as you were talking, I just had this realization that letting go, the words letting go, they're so ambiguous, because if you say let go to a Buddhist, that is letting go of self.
Mhm.
That is relinquishing thoughts, emotions, and the personality that created the reality that that they were assigned to. So you're letting go of that. The piece on letting go of trauma that you find in healing spaces, the piece on letting go when it comes to body workers, is releasing tension in the body that may be connected to trauma, emotion, and other aspects of life, stress, things like that. And so that phrase, like, you just unlocked this, like, well, we need to let go of, let go, because
Yeah.
it's far too ambiguous for anybody to actually hone in on what that looks like for them. I guess if we were going to throw it in the spiritual maturity pile, for me, it would be defining it personally for yourself. Like, I like to sometimes engage in the disengaging of who I am when I feel like too much of that is trying to defend me against something. And this isn't just like, oh, well, I'm a healer and so I should be able to do blah, blah. It's not just the ego of spirituality, but it can also be that sort of defensiveness that comes up when you have a fixable, solvable, energetic moment where you're like, if I had a client sitting in front of me, I would be able to support them through this. Why can't I deal with this? This is what I do. To me, separating from myself as the healing facilitator allows me to actually see what's happening, so I can engage in that
Mhm.
Buddhist practice at the same time working on my body. I can engage in letting go of trauma in that way. So that one's a tough one for me now. Like, I'm gonna come away from this conversation
Yeah.
going, oh crap.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
There's a lot here that is kind of on the fence for me. So we've got about 12 minutes left or a little bit more. I'm going to just kind of power through some of these just to see where we go with them. So I'll
Go for
throw
it.
out my stuff and then you can talk about yours. Get ready, right? Um, when we are able to not have expectations in a relationship and we give of ourselves for the pleasure of giving, that to me sounds like it was written by a user, quite frankly. So
I don't
we
agree with that
all have, whether we intend to or not, we all have expectations in relationships.
for sure.
And part of that is being treated with dignity and honor and respect. Part of that is expectations that we're not always going to see eye to eye. I mean, there's lots of expectations we set up. So I think that not having expectations is a problem. Give of ourselves for the pleasure of giving. Sure, I think you should always limit what you give. A really good thing I heard once that I've lived by is don't do anything you're going to resent later.
That's a good
So,
one.
yep. So the next one is when we understand that what we do for our own peace. Okay. When we stop showing the world how smart we are, well, that's just fucking impossible for us. But I mean, what are you going to do? Uh, I think not putting a lot of ego in your intelligence, and also being open to the idea that that is also fluid and can change. Stop seeking approval from others.
Oh, that's a
I
big
think
one.
that's impossible. I think we
Really?
always, yeah, I do. I think we always have people that we respect and care about and want them to think well of us. I think that it's impossible. That severs to me severs connectedness
Oh, I see. Hmm.
because like I'm a rock, I'm an island. I don't need anybody to approve of me. You know what? I got lots of people in my life that I'm fortunate. I never expected this, but I'd say 50, 100 people in my life I really love and really care about. And I'd say the about a third of those, it's intense. I really care about these people, and I do care about how they perceive me.
Hmm.
And if that's interpreted as approval, then okay. Comes to the next one. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, yes. When we're at peace with ourselves, okay. Um, when we're able to distinguish need and want, and we're able to let go of the want, a no. That is a no. Because sometimes we need to do for ourselves just because we want it, not because we need it. And the last one is when we stop attaching happiness to material things. Okay, whatever. Well,
um, I would touch back on the peace with ourselves one,
mhm,
just on the principle of, like, I have promoted that as a way of being, and I now realize the ebb and flow to that.
Hmm.
So you find peace with yourself where you are at your station at that stage of life, and it allows you to have more gratitude and maybe not to see your circumstances as difficult. But I also recognize in myself where um, I like to see what's next. I like to get to the next level. And at the next level, there will be a period of time where I am not at peace with
Hmm.
myself because I
Yeah.
realize that there's an imbalance or an incongruence with what I am trying to, where I'm trying to go and where I was. And it's so like, if you can imagine where you are, where you're going, and that place in the middle is where you will not be at peace with yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that's okay, as long as you are not um, the nail underneath the hammer, telling yourself that you are wrong, incapable, a broken person, a challenge to never be solved. As long as you don't get stuck in that place,
There's
then
a difference in being at peace with yourself and loving yourself. And I
yep.
think you just have to be at a place where you just want to love up on yourself. You would hang out with you,
Yeah.
if you met you, that you're satisfied with where you are and what you do. And then the thing about, you know, understand that what we do for our own peace. That's a sweet idea. I would like to believe that that's the case, but I mean, I would rephrase that to say we do what we do just so we can sleep at night. Otherwise,
Mm.
you're going to end up like that first person and having all kinds of subconscious nightmares and stuff like that. But I think you have to just live in your own skin and be okay with that. There's a peacefulness to that of self acceptance and self love, I think. What do you think about the one about showing the world how smart we are? That's a hard one, especially for communicators like me and you.
I was gonna say, because the world is built on this principle of, what are you certified in? What do you do?
Hmm.
What do you know? I think that's a hard one to escape unless you go outside the country, outside of the United States. Outside of the United States, I think there's room for that
Hmm.
because you can come up and create experiences. I mean, like one of the things that I tend to think about is like over in India when they select a person to be a deity or something like that. It's all in the principle of feeling and what they know of that deity and other things that they create, but there's no like certification or, it's not like the child starts reciting a sacred text. They just go, nope, okay, now you represent a goddess. And I'm oversimplifying it and not trying to be offensive, but in America, like that would not fly.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, and where I struggle with that one too is really I'm going to lose that position where everybody approves of me right now because overall, I'm not talking to any of y'all, just get past that. People out there are so goddamn dumb that I have to work really hard not to mansplain and info dump in most conversations. I'll
Yeah.
be sitting at a restaurant listening to a conversation next at the table next to me. It has nothing to do with me, ought not even be my business. And I just want to go over there and just take charge of the misinformation that they're throwing out into this restaurant.
Mm.
So it's really hard for me in that regard to not be judged. I know y'all should weep because it's so hard for me. I don't pretend to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, Eric says if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But I don't, it's hard when it seems like the dumbing is happening all over every, oh, the person. Okay.
The dumbing.
It just seems like the aggregate level of ignorance is climbing. And that's tough.
There was
So,
I
yeah.
there was one that you brought up, and I had a thought. Can you quickly breathe through them again?
So the ones we just did.
The
Okay.
last ones that you rushed through.
Okay. Um, when we are able to not have expectations in a relationship and give of ourselves for the pleasure of giving,
Not that
when
one.
we understand that what we do for our own peace, when we stop showing the world how smart we are, when we stop seeking approval from others,
Mm-mm.
stop comparing ourselves to others, when we're at peace with ourselves, when we're able to distinguish between need and want and let go of the want, and when we stop attaching happiness to material things.
Okay, no. I mean, I have comments on the happiness and material
Mhm.
things.
Wonder what it
Um,
was.
what'd you say?
Accept people. We had accept people as they are before. Everyone's a correct according to their own perspective. We laid that one to waste. Um, yeah, that's them.
Well, so on the happiness piece, um, when I guess one of the things that I try to put forward is seeking that inner happiness. Like you said, you like being around you. I
Yeah.
think is where a lot of that inner happiness actually starts. Happiness with maybe what you're doing, how you are being, that you're achieving something that's meaningful to you. And then um, that helps you release the I'm going to buy this because it makes me feel
Mhm,
good. It makes me feel
mhm,
happy, or the food that makes you
mhm,
feel good and
mhm,
happy. But that one's not so simple because there's so many neurodiverse things that no matter the amount of work that you put in on yourself, you may have to aggressively work against that just because of how your brain is built. I mean, what we're learning about dopamine as
mhm.
science grows, you may not have you may not have a subconscious choice, so you have to consciously say to yourself,
Mhm.
okay, I need to work on rewarding in a different way, or
Yeah.
how do I trick myself or change this thing that I'm reaching for. So that one is a twofold thing. I wanted to make space for my neurodiverse people who are in a low dopamine space because they didn't get enough sleep or whatever, their nutrition
Mhm.
sucks or whatever happened. And all of a sudden their spiritual maturity breaks because they went and they indulged in something.
Yeah.
That is not what we're talking about in terms of happiness
Mhm.
and material things, I think. Um,
I'm concerned. I would reword that to say the acquisition of material things. And I would also want some clarity because a house is a material thing and I want to live in one. A car is a material thing. I would really enjoy having transportation. I attach happiness to that because that then makes me self sustaining and safe. Um, but if I'm going to just go out and buy something to get the dopamine rush, then and just have a hoarded amount of things just because, then yes, that was something I would need to consciously work through because there's subconscious motivations there that are not being served in other ways and not being given the attention that they need.
mm,
I think it's a symptom rather than the condition itself.
right.
I also, and I have a kind of unique perspective on this, having lost almost all of my material possessions.
See.
And I tell you what, it my happiness is attached to the idea that, like last night, I was watching a TV show and it showed a child where a child had written a note to somebody, and it was that little childish scrawl. And just the idea that of all of my 6 kids, I do not have a single piece of their penmanship anymore from that little child time, that affects my happiness. I don't think that means I'm spiritually unevolved. I think a
No.
thing happened. And I think that we do attach happiness to material things that have a specific uh, heart chakra meaning to us. So I think that one's a little ambiguous. That one's a little troubling and so nuanced.
And gatekeepy, as you say.
Yeah, it is. A lot of these are really gatekeepy. A lot of these are sort of that toxic positivity approach. And, those are usually the people who are sheriffing what is and is not spiritual maturity.
Mm,
There are some good things on here. There's some good nuggets. but the way that it's worded is, I think, really shitty in a bunch of places.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, with that, I think that's a great place to sort of end our show here. We've covered a lot of different things. Would love to hear your thoughts. I want to do some honorable
Yeah.
mentions here because Bram had some
Shout
great
out.
thoughts. Um, so they were saying they've referred to baseline as a consensus reality, and I absolutely love that. I definitely plan
Mhm.
to implement that into my vocabulary because it's an important distinction, I think, when we're talking about what everybody believes and then narrowing that down to the individual, that individuated moment. um, your right to swing your fists ends at my face. I mean, I think I've even seen that on protest signs. Like, that is, it's what I like about this phrase is that a toddler could understand it. So there is no room for nuance. There is no room for, well, I didn't understand what you meant.
Mhm.
If a toddler can understand it, then we can all be on the same page, and it's short enough to remember. So absolutely love that. Thank you, Bram. um
Mhm.
and that is I wanted to throw those up there because they were great. So thank you everybody for who popped in for even just a moment, or who were here the whole time. We appreciate you. As always, we will keep trudging through Reddit, and also, the space is open up for you guys to share your experiences and see what we might say, or how we might advise here
Mhm.
on the show. We'd love to
Send us
do that.
a screenshot. If you see a good Reddit post you'd like for
Oh
us to
yeah,
unpack, screenshot that sucker and email it to one of us. If you go to crossroadsofcognizance.com, our emails are up there.
right there.
And we'd love to have your suggestions on things we should talk about.
100%. So with that, as I mentioned, not last week, but the week before, we are now bi-weekly. So we'll see you not next week, but the week after that on Crossroads of Cognizance. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.